still being worked on, and it's unclear if it will name Representative Ilhan Omar. Either way, this is an unprecedented rebuke to a freshman lawmaker who's been in office for 60 days. Last month, Omar apologized for using an anti-Semitic trope while criticizing the influence of the pro-Israel lobby. Then last week, she reignited the controversy, saying that activists who support Israel have a, quote, allegiance to a foreign country. Democrat Ingraham Angle, chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, said it's, quote, unacceptable and deeply offensive to call into question the loyalty of fellow American citizens because of their political views, including support of the U.S.-Israel relationship. Omar fired back, saying that it's problematic being told that she's anti-American if she's not pro-Israel. Remember, back in 2012, she tweeted that Israel had hypnotized the world and asked Allah to help people see the evil doings of Israel. Now some top Republicans are considering offering a censure motion against Omar.
Well, this is a Democratic problem, and yeah, we're proud of our friendship, our alliance with Israel, the only democracy in the region, and how the Prime Minister Netanyahu has had moral clarity on the world stage. All right, thank you, Trace. All right, now, also, responses to our big story. One person writes on Twitter, I doubt the Dems are really going to do anything. Probably all just for show. We certainly hope you take it seriously. This is real. Let not your heart be troubled. We are not the hate Trump media. Laura Ingraham is not in tonight.
No, it's Waters.
It's Waters' World. By the way, somebody wrote me and said, why hasn't Waters been on lately? And I'm just like, he's going to be back. We love Waters. Don't worry about it.
Oh, good, because I was getting worried, Sean. I missed you.
Oh, yeah. No, your mom's... I can't wait for you to do Waters' World Mom Edition. I want to see you debate your mother.
You know what? I can't beat my mom. I'm too good of a son.
No, you can. It'll be great TV. I want to see it. I want a front row seat.
All right, I'll do it for you, Sean.
All right, have a good show.
All right, thank you. I'm Jesse Waters for Laura Ingraham, and this is the Ingraham Angle from New York City tonight. Democrats dragging out the same old tired rhetoric as the 2020 White House race heats up, using the politics of hate to try to turn voters away from President Trump. But are they just creating more division in America? Plus, have House Dems had enough of the radical new class of Congress? The rare vote this week to put them on notice. And nearly 7,000 illegals arrested at just one border crossing, the majority of them women and children. So why are Democrats saying there's not a national emergency? Plus, MAGA under attack at schools across the country. This time, students told their Trump gear was disrespectful and offensive. The story and the debate ahead. But first, Democrats deploying the politics of hate to try to win the White House in 2020. They know they can't beat Trump on policy at all. They just can't do it. But there's more. This is what they're calling a crisis, not the influx of illegal immigrants rushing across the border. No. What constitutes a crisis to Democrats is an actual made-up scenario of Trump creating darkness. Watch this.
Donald Trump wants to divide us up based on the color of our skin.
This is a time, my friends, when fundamental rights, civic virtue, freedom of the press, the rule of law, truth, facts, and reason are under assault. And make no mistake, we are living through a full-fledged crisis in our democracy.
I realize that what's happening in this country is devastating. I mean, President Trump has created such division, such darkness, such hate.
Joining me now is Dan Bongino, Fox News contributor and host of the Dan Bongino podcast, Leo Terrell, a civil rights attorney, and Star Parker, president and the founder of the Center for Urban Renewal and Education. Dan, hate is on the right. The last time I looked, it was the left that was firebombing limousines at the inauguration. Hollywood's decapitating the president. You know, they're calling him a traitorous Nazi. Wherever I look, most of the hate's on that side, not on the right.
Jesse, I just got done watching Sean's show where they had a college kid on who got decked in the face by a Berkeley kid who was upset he was recruiting for a conservative ballot. I mean, it's almost ridiculous, but there's a tactical reason the Democrats do this. They took a twofold strategy years ago, right? They understand that their ideas only appeal to a limited portion of radicals: high taxes, government-controlled health care, a monopoly on public education. So what did they do, Jesse? They knew they couldn't get you to vote for their ideas, So they decided to paint Republicans as racist, hoping you would just vote against them and that maybe they'd get a majority once in a while. That, in conjunction with stacking the courts, they think will get them across the finish line. But they're the ones stoking division, not Republicans.
And Leo, it's funny listening to Crooked Hillary talking about the rule of law and how important it is for her. The transition of power to President Trump has not been peaceful. I mean, there's been stings, there's been leaks, there's been unmasking. Now they want to impeach the guy in the first term. Don't you think that would contribute to some of the crisis in the democracy that she's talking about?
No, the crisis is very simple. The people down in Selma, what Hillary and Bernie were saying was that Donald Trump has polarized this country so bad on issues of race, his hatred, and the issues are very simple. Donald Trump, look at Charlottesville. Look at the situation where Donald Trump talks about the issue of the Muslim ban. And I would submit to you that Dan will tell this audience that Donald Trump has never said a racist thing. You know why? Because Dan's afraid of Donald Trump, and Dan will not admit that Donald Trump has said racist comments the last 3 years. Isn't that true, Dan?
Dan, go ahead. I'll let you respond to the personal attack.
You're a liar.
Be honest, Dan. Just be honest. Just be honest. Has Donald Trump said anything racist? Has Donald Trump said anything racist, Dan?
Leo, let him finish. Leo, let him finish.
The answer is no.
Oh, see?
Wait,
that's
and
why.
You're a liar.
But he's afraid
because
of Trump.
Muslims are not banned from the United States. You have no credibility.
You're afraid of Trump.
You're just lying.
You are afraid of Trump.
Because
so
you have
Donald
nothing
Trump,
else.
you have just told everyone that in the national audience, Donald Trump has never said a racist thing.
All right, guys, let's put the personal attacks down for 1 second. Star Parker. We talk about division in this country. Leo right there demonstrated some divisiveness. Came out with a personal attack, not on policy. That was personal. How do you see it?
Yeah.
I see it as the Democrats have divided us a long time ago. They started about 50 years ago. They segmented us into all these little people populations, and Donald Trump is bringing us all together. He's fixing everything for everyone, and they hate it. They're coming in totally unglued, and Selma is an example of the left trying to take advantage of a point in history that has solved itself. We are more united as a grassroots community of people. It's only the fringe of the Democrats, and so they'll try to stir up anything. They are losing the black community. They're losing the black vote, and they're having problems with that.
Hey, Leo, do you think, to Star's point, just for 1 second, it's appropriate for Hillary to make a correlation between Selma and the Trump era? I mean, they had, armed federal agents going down to beat up black people back then. That's not happening now. I think that trivializes what really happened down in the 60s.
Jesse, you got Star and Dan, two apologists. They don't see racism for Donald Trump because they're afraid of him. This is a new type of racism. Donald Trump sends out dog whistle. Hey, Star, has Donald Trump said anything racist? Hey, Dan, has Donald Trump said anything racist? You're not going to say no. You're not going to say yes.
Actually, I'm going to say yes. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you what he did say racist. That had anything to do with race. No, Dan, let me address that.
Let Star address it.
Because this is important. Actually, he has focused on the racial problems in our country by building out these opportunity zones now. We have 8,700 opportunity zones where he's going into the most critical areas in our country and trying to fix them. When he made a political promise to the black community that he was going to fix the inner cities, he was serious about it, and he's done that. Actually, he's also helped us by appointing judges that are now trying to look at.
You're an apologist.
You can call it what you want to, but I tell you one thing.
You don't speak for me.
Obviously, I don't. But
no,
she's speaking for herself.
Not only for myself. A third of African Americans agree with this. Did you not? Wait just a minute, Leo.
No,
let me finish. You called me out because there are polls all over. In fact, Gallup just came out with one 2 weeks ago, which is not a conservative right winger. And Gallup just showed that 21% of African Americans said that not only are they conservative, but 41% said they're moderate. Now you guys are coming unglued because this president is fixing the country for us.
All right,
Dan
you know what?
and Star have just told everybody Donald Trump has never said a racist thing in 3 years. These two people have just said that. Do you believe them?
All
Case
right,
closed.
listen,
Jesse,
Dan, I'll give you 30 seconds to respond. Go ahead.
Okay, Leo's clearly insane. I don't know how he managed to bypass the Booker. This guy's out of his mind. I'm sorry. But Donald Trump, there has never been an allegation that Donald Trump was a racist until he ran for president as a Republican. Leo is nuts. He's race-baiting people on the show. He has no evidence of anything he's saying being true. And he just lied to the audience saying that Muslims are banned from the United States. I was unaware of that, because if you're Muslim, you're allowed in the United States like anyone else. He's making that up to bait me and Starr. It's with bait because he has no facts, because he's been vaccinated against facts at an early age like every other liberal. All he has is this garbage nonsense that Donald Trump is a racist. It's disgusting. It's disgraceful. He should be embarrassed for saying it.
All right, Leo, we're going to move on to another subject. Yeah. We're going to give you another shot at this, okay? Because we're going to change topics, all right? Stay with us. I want to head down to Washington, D.C., where Democratic Congresswoman Ms. Omar is really starting to get on the nerves of her House colleagues. The freshman's under fire for comments that one top Democrat calls vile and anti-Semitic. House Democrats now drafting a resolution condemning anti-Semitism in the wake of those remarks. Leland Vittert joins us in Washington with more. What's up, Leland?
Oh, hey, Jess. Tonight that draft resolution obtained by Fox News and circulating on the House side of Capitol Hill, as you noted, it says anti-Semitism is bad. But missing is the name of the person at the center of it all, Ilhan Omar, the congresswoman from Minnesota. Her latest questionable remark alleges and alludes to the long-standing anti-Semitic claim that Jews can't be trusted because they might have split allegiances with Israel.
I want to talk about the political influence in this country that says it is okay for people to push for allegiance to a foreign country.
That earned her a swift rebuke from her chairman on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Her comments were outrageous and deeply hurtful, said Chairman Ingraham Angle, and I asked that she retract them and apologize, commit to making her case on policy issues without resorting to attacks that have no place in the Foreign Affairs Committee or the House of Representatives. It's far from Omar's first encounter with charges of anti-Semitism. Up until recently, she defended a 2012 tweet saying Israel has hypnotized the world. May Allah awaken the people and help them see the evil doings of Israel. In a Yahoo News article, she recently compared Israel to Iran. On February 11th, she tweeted it's all about the Benjamin's baby, suggesting that Republican support for Israel is driven by campaign donations. Omar defended her latest comments by tweeting yesterday, "I'm told every day that I'm anti-American if I'm not pro-Israel." This comes at an uncomfortable time for House leadership. Over the weekend, this cover of Rolling Stone magazine hit newsstands with Omar, Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and two other House Democrats on the cover. The @Pelosi account tweeted out the cover. Now, Speaker Pelosi and her team must, of course, deal with the division in their own caucus over how to sanction Omar. As you just heard, Jesse, Ingraham Angle seemed to question whether she's even fit to serve on the Foreign Affairs Committee, while that draft resolution does not even mention her name.
All right, Leland, thank you. Back to the panel now. Dan, Leo, and Starr. Well, I don't even think what matters is on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine because nobody even buys it anyway. But Dan, it's not just Republicans saying Omar has a problem with anti-Semitism. It's Nancy Pelosi, the Anti-Defamation League, the Jewish Policy Center have all called her statements offensive and prejudiced. Do the Democrats have a problem with anti-Semitism?
They do. And Jesse, to be fair, I want to applaud the Democrats who've taken a stand against Representative Omar. This is clearly an anti-Semitic trope she lobbed out there. And just imagine, and the way to do the test for racism or anti-Semitism is to replace the roles, right? If we had accused Representative Omar of dual loyalty to a Middle Eastern country, let's say, we would be accused of Islamophobia immediately.
Well, more than that, we'd be fired. So. We'd be fired.
Oh, you'd be fired.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be off the air.
This would be the last time you'd see
accusation, and I'm glad some Democrats are speaking out. They do have a problem. The answer is yes.
And will Leo speak out against Congresswoman Omar? Leo?
Oh, well, let me just tell you right now. This is the beautiful part of the Democrat leadership. Omar has made anti-Semitic comments, and the House leadership, Jesse, is taking action. Unlike the Republican leadership and Dan and Starr, they won't take action against Trump. The House Democrats are going after Omar, saying that her comments are wrong. But you see how the Republican leadership and Dan and Starr...
Leo, I don't know if you've been awake for the last 2 years, but the Republican leadership, any chance they get to criticize Trump, they do. They're always saying this and that. They're not in lockstep with the president.
Are you kidding me?
I mean, they have not circled the wagons around this president like other people have. Come on.
Mitch McConnell is in Trump's pocket. Dan and Starr's in Trump's pocket because they're afraid of his Twitter.
I can't
they're
even
afraid
respond
of
to
Trump's
this guy.
Twitter.
Why don't you stop
seriously
saying that? Because maybe there are other reasons that we support President Trump. Maybe we support him because he did move the embassy to Jerusalem, a promise that had been put on the table for years, decades, and then he finally did that. Maybe what we ought to do is be concerned that Louis Farrakhan, right after Nancy Pelosi asked Omar to pull back on her anti-Semitic comments, sent out to her a shout out to say, no, you need to keep going. And now she's been emboldened. And what she's trying to do is create much
We're not talking about Farrakhan.
more.
We're not talking about Farrakhan.
Louis Farrakhan
interject
interject himself into this discussion, which means now that the Democrat Party has a problem because 70 to 80% of Jews in this country have voted for Democrats. And now they're looking at all this anti-Semitic discussion.
You speak for the Jewish community right now. You speak for the Jewish community.
And I would be proud of it then, because I'm going to tell you something.
And keep
I would
quiet
be proud
for a
of
minute.
it.
Let her
because
talk.
when you look at what has happened.
Dan's afraid of Trump's Twitter account.
All right, Leo, just relax for a second.
Sure. Yeah, I'm afraid.
We're making the point.
I'm
have a real
6'1",
problem,
230
okay?
pounds. I'm not afraid
He's
of much.
trying to make
And
something
certainly not your
personal.
guard.
That
Well,
is
let me ask Leo a question because he says the Republicans don't really police their own. When Steve King,
on the issue of race and hatred,
okay, when Steve King made some controversial comments about race, he was stripped of all his committeeships. Now, have they stripped Omar of anything? No, she's on the same foreign committee,
and
foreign
she
relations
actually
committee.
has a real embedded
A resolution is just a bunch of words.
And
They haven't taken any action.
They didn't do anything, and it's going to get worse because she's not the only one elected that has this challenge. And for Leo to try to pretend that Louis Farrakhan is not part of this discussion, he's fooling himself and trying to fool the rest of America.
Those are your typical talking points, Star. You don't speak for African Americans.
You have not said anything but a talking point. Jesse,
okay, go ahead, Dan.
Rehash this whole thing. Jesse, Leo keeps calling out Star for talking points.
Why does
he
Dan
has
yell?
provided no evidence that anything he said on this hit is actually true. Leo, you are a liar.
Dan does not want to lose his invitation.
You brought out nothing but
independent black women. Leo is afraid of independent black women. That's why
Leo came on the show, name called. Then when you say something back to him, he says, "Oh, you're name calling." Leo, everybody sees right through. Leo, we love you.
All I said was,
Leo, we love you, but we see right through you.
I don't know. Don't tell me.
I love you too. I love you too, but Star and Dan are afraid of Trump.
Okay.
They're afraid of Trump.
No one's afraid of anybody.
You know what,
and
Leo? I'm afraid of idiots. And that's why I hate going on the air with guys like you.
And Leo, I think you'd be a little afraid of Dan if you met him face to face. That's all I'm saying, all right?
Probably would.
No.
And maybe Star. I don't know.
I'm not
afraid of anyone.
All right,
I'm a
Leo.
lawyer. I'm not afraid of those guys.
All right,
I'm
guys.
a peaceful guy.
We can tell you're a lawyer, Leo. Thank you very much. We got to run. Up next, shocking new details on the real crisis at the border as Republicans turn against the president and his national emergency. Former acting ICE Director Tom Homan has seen the situation on the ground firsthand and is here to respond to critics. Up next.
We fight wars 6,000 miles away. We spend billions in border control and security. In the last 2 years, ICE officers made 266,000 arrests of aliens with criminal records, including those charged or convicted of approximately 100,000 assaults. And these are new numbers, hard to believe. 30,000 sex crimes and 4,000 murders.
President Trump today making the case for the national emergency at the border, as it looks like he'll have to use his veto powers for the first time. Several Republican senators now say they will vote for a resolution to block his order. This as the crisis at the border intensifies by the day. Just last week, nearly 7,000 illegals were arrested in the Rio Grande Valley. 1,300 were caught in just one day alone, most women and children. And in New Mexico, nearly 200 illegals were apprehended near Sunland Park. The majority of those as well were families and unaccompanied minors. So why are so many lawmakers denying there's a national emergency? Garrett Tenney is live in D.C. tonight with the story. Garrett?
Well, Jesse, the main issue here for a lot of Republican senators is not the border wall. Most support that. Their concern is that the president's emergency declaration violates the Constitution because it's Congress that's supposed to control the spending. And if Congress allows the president to do it this time, Republicans are concerned it would set a dangerous precedent that would allow Democratic presidents to enact liberal agendas in the future. So far, 4 GOP senators have said they will vote against the president's emergency declaration. Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Tom Tillis, and Rand Paul, who defended his decision earlier today.
I think we need a wall. I think we need security at the border. But Congress came to a conclusion. The president signed the bill. There was a debate over wall funding, and there was a conclusion. So I think it's easy to argue that this emergency order, this executive order, goes against the will of Congress.
And Paul also said there are at least 10 GOP senators who are prepared to vote against the president's emergency declaration. Sources tell Fox News that Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is expected to give the resolution a vote sometime next week before the March 15th recess. President Trump has said he will absolutely veto the bill if it reaches his desk. And today, Senate Majority Leader McConnell said he does not think Congress has the votes to override it.
I think what is clear in the Senate is there will be enough votes to pass the resolution of disapproval, which will then be vetoed by the president, and then in all likelihood the veto will be upheld in the House.
Even if Congress can't override the president's veto, this fight is not over. Democrats have a number of lawsuits challenging the emergency declaration as well, meaning those funds could be blocked for months until those lawsuits are resolved. Jesse?
Garrett, thank you very much. Joining me now, Tom Homan, former ICE acting director, and Francisco Hernandez, immigration attorney. Francisco, just in the last few days, Border Patrol has arrested the following. You ready? A previously deported convicted rapist, 3 previously deported violent MS-13 gang members, and 2 previously deported convicted child sex offenders. So how's there not a crisis down there that necessitates an emergency declaration?
You just said in your introduction that the vast majority of the people that they're catching crossing are women and children. But wait a minute. What happened to the first 2 years? Where was the emergency the first 2 years of the Trump presidency when there was a Republican majority? What happened to immigration reform? What happened to making Mexico pay for the wall? What happened to building the wall?
Well, Francisco, you know you need 60 votes in the Senate in order to get any sort of thing like...
No,
yeah, you do. For wall
it.
Funding, you need 60 votes. They didn't have 60.
Well, look, we're down to enhanced barriers. I mean, come on, guys. Go ahead. He's already declared the emergency. Start building the wall. A resolution is not going to block his funding on an emergency declaration.
Okay, good. So I'm glad Francisco agrees. I'm glad you agree that the wall is needed and that he should go forward, Tom, with the emergency declaration. Tom,
anyway.
I just looked at the Washington Post here, and the Washington Post says this: illegal immigration in fiscal year 2019 is on pace to reach its highest level in a decade. What does that tell you?
It tells us the border's out of control, and there is a crisis on the border. And let's not forget, we keep talking about families, but we got to remember, the intelligence reports clearly show, in my 34 years doing this job, they will move these family groups to one sector to tie the Border Patrol assets up so the cartels can move narcotics and bad people to another sector. So this border crisis is a national security crisis because of what the cartels are moving once the Border Patrol assets are tied up with these family units. That's why it's this important. It's just not a border crisis. This is a national security crisis.
Yeah, Francisco, what about the compassion for the young women or the children that are being exploited by the cartels?
Oh, that's true. Look, that's true. And you know I have nothing but the highest respect for Special Agent Homan. I got no problem with that. The problem here is if we just passed immigration reform, we can take care of the rest. But here we are 6 years later.
But what does immigration reform mean? It means nothing unless you have a secure border.
Okay, fair enough, but let's put something on the table. We just keep talking about
the Republicans have put something on the table. The president and the Republicans have put border wall funding on the table along with common sense reforms. And the Democrats just reject it. They don't want to spend any money on actual security. They just want to do all sorts of smart walls. What is a smart wall, by the way?
It's not true.
What's a smart wall,
Francisco? Didn't even get a chance to reject it. The Democrats didn't even get a chance to reject it because everybody was afraid of a filibuster. So nobody, no, not the Senate, not the Republicans, not Democrats, have sent anything to the president about immigration reform.
Francisco, let me ask you a question. When you have a party at your house, just let anybody in?
Yes. Well,
anybody,
no, I mean,
anybody can come in
to control the guest list.
Okay, yeah,
so
you can
control the guest list.
You control the guest list, right? And how do you do that? By asking people who they are, by opening the door, closing the door to people that you don't think should be at the party. Why can't we just do that at the southern border and make our country secure?
That's exactly what we should do. That is exactly what we should do.
Okay.
And pass immigration reform so people don't have to come here illegally.
Okay, Tom, I think Francisco's on our side. I believe he believes in border security just as much as we do. Tell me about what your opinion is on these Republicans in the Senate who are not going along with this national emergency declaration.
They're failing their country. They're failing this president. Look, I'm not an attorney, but I certainly think the president has the authority given to him by Congress to move money from the Department of Defense to secure this nation's borders. He's protecting this country. And look, and I've heard some of the Republicans say, well, we don't want to do this because the Democrats may do it back to us, you know, if they ever take the White House back. They've already done it. They've already done it. President Barack Obama said he couldn't pass DACA legislation. He says it was unconstitutional, couldn't do it, but he did it. Then when President Trump tried to undo the unconstitutional movement, he got shut down by the courts. So look, the gloves are already off. This president is trying to walk the walk. He's trying to secure this country like he promised American people. There's no downside on securing this nation's border. There's no downside on less illegal immigration, less drug smuggling, less children dying, less children being raped. There's no downside. Let's get it done. So I'm disappointed in the four Republicans so far.
Go ahead.
But Special Agent Holman, even if they pass a resolution, it's not a bill, it's not a law, it's just a resolution. It doesn't keep the president from spending those funds. They could try to take away the money, but they're not going to. So if President Trump means it, let's start doing it. But he's really just gaslighting this country on polar opposites for re-election. That's all it is gaslighting, and we're not serious about fixing this problem.
He's not building the wall to get re-elected. I mean, he ran on building the wall. That was a promise he made to his supporters.
Securing this border isn't President Trump's success. It's America's success. If he fails on the border, America fails on the border. That's the argument here. President Trump didn't come up the wall by himself. He talked to the experts on the line, like myself, who spent 34 years doing the job. He's trying to secure this nation. That's his job as president. That's every Republican and Democrat's job. Unfortunately, some are failing the American people by not securing this country and have the opportunity to do that right now.
Real quick question before I let you go. Do you think you could get over a 30-foot concrete wall?
Yeah, I can get under it with a tunnel.
No, it goes 10 feet deep.
Look, guys, we all know.
I mean, I know you're good at shoveling. I know you're good at shoveling, Francisco, but I don't think you're that good. I got to run, guys.
But you know what? We're the second half of the problem.
I got to run.
Let's stop hiring.
All right, I got to run.
Hiring.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Jerry Nadler, the new Democratic chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, launching a massive new investigation today into President Trump. But he admits he doesn't have any evidence that Trump committed any crimes. Congressman Matt Gaetz, who sits on that committee, and Alan Dershowitz are here next.
This is not a pre-impeachment hearing. Our goal is not to decide whether there's impeachment. It may come to that if the facts show that.
Found no evidence President Trump colluded with the Russians. Despite that, today, new House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler launched a new investigation into the president, requesting documents from 81 agencies, entities, and individuals as part of a new probe into what Nadler calls, quote, alleged obstruction of justice, public corruption, and other abuses of power by President Trump, although Nadler admitted he didn't have any proof.
If we're going to do anything, you have to have proof. I think there's a lot of evidence, but we have to get a lot more evidence.
So that's what this is about. You don't yet have proof.
That's part of what this is about.
Joining me now, House Judiciary Member Matt Gaetz. So wait, Matt, so they don't have any proof or evidence, but they're investigating anyway?
Well, I guess this is like the Nancy Pelosi version of you've got to read the bill before you can find, or you've got to vote on the bill before you can find out what's in it.
Right.
Democrats campaigned promising to be the party of solutions. Now they're just the party of endless, unfocused investigations. And what you see from Chairman Nadler is the investigatory equivalent of fishing with dynamite, seeking information from 81 different entities. I mean, just to give you a flavor of how ridiculous it is, Jesse, they're trying to get documents from the president's former lawyer, Don McGahn, which would clearly be either privileged or subject to an executive privilege. And then they're even trying to get information from the content director of the National Enquirer. So we may find out why Brad Pitt was at Jennifer Aniston's 40th birthday before we find out whether or not there's any evidence of collusion with Russia.
Yeah. Trump has one conversation with a member of the media, and that's collusion. Meanwhile, the Democrats talk to the press every day and leak and connive. It is funny, though. So he's looking at obstruction of justice. The only thing Trump obstructed was Hillary getting into the White House, in my opinion. He's looking at public corruption. Now, if they were interested in corruption, maybe they would have cared about the Clinton Foundation. And abuses of power, it's funny because they were really never interested in the IRS targeting the Tea Party. So it looks purely political. Doesn't it?
Of course it is. And it is all a lead up to their efforts to destabilize and distract this president. What Democrats know is that if Donald Trump has the opportunity to challenge the bureaucracy, to end wars, to deregulate and then invigorate the American economy, he's going to be reelected because the American people are going to be doing better. And so the only hope Democrats have is to try to tweezer through every deal he's ever done, every element of his life, in hopes that the American people will care more about Donald Trump than they do about their own future. I'm betting on people to actually vote their own interests and not follow just the endless saga of endless investigations with no focus, no end in sight, just a desire to distract.
You know, it's totally hypocritical because Congress takes our money, not their money, our money, and they spend it covering up sexual harassment lawsuits. They bribe contractors with it. You know, they give it to lobbyists. They pay off the Iranians with it. It doesn't matter, okay? And then they want to know what Trump did with a few dollars in the 80s? It's his money.
And so much of what the Democrats have alleged against the president deals with his conduct before he even contemplated a political campaign. But, you know, thus is the nature of Washington today. No solutions from Democrats, no real legislation to deal with immigration or infrastructure or the issues that they talked about during the campaign. Instead, just more investigations, more endless attacks. But the good news is the American people, the forgotten men and women of this country, they're going to see through all of this and they're going to show up in droves to re-elect a president that is ending wars and creating more economic opportunity than at any other time in our life, Jesse.
All right, Congressman, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So is this legal? Should the president be at all concerned? Joining me now, Alan Dershowitz, Harvard Law Professor Emeritus. And you're going to be writing the introduction to the forthcoming book, The Mueller Report. Wow, I can't wait for that. Now,
that's right.
James Comey's now come out, and he's written an op-ed in the Washington Post, and he says, you know, when Barr, the new AG, gets this Mueller report, he needs to be completely transparent, and he needs to share it with the American people. I love listening to James Comey give advice on how to handle investigations. He booted the Clinton investigation, and then he tried to cover up the Trump investigation.
Look, I think he should be transparent. I agree with you that Comey is not the guy to lecture anybody about this. I would hope that once the Mueller report is given to the Attorney General, before he makes it public, will give it over to the Trump legal team. Give them a week or 10 days to write their rebuttal report. Let the rebuttal be issued at exactly the same time as the report is issued, simultaneously released. Then I'm going to write an introduction both to the Mueller report and to the rebuttal report so the American public can see both sides and make decisions for themselves. It would be utterly unfair to have a one-sided Mueller report, and all prosecutorial reports are one-sided, without there being an opportunity to respond. Let's remember that this is unique. Generally, prosecutors say, indict, don't indict. We all criticize Comey for going beyond that and saying, we're not indicting Hillary Clinton, but let me tell you what I really think would happen. The same thing is true here. But if they're going to issue a report that goes beyond indict or not indict, at least let there be an opportunity for the other side to respond so the American public can judge based on all the evidence.
That's fair. And it's clear this is personal with Nadler. I mean, Trump and Nadler have gone at it back since the 80s in Manhattan. He was always a thorn in Trump's side when he was trying to do deals. And do you think the president faces any, it's going to be hard to govern with all these subpoenas flying around and everybody getting hauled in front of the cameras every hearing. What do you think is going to happen, and is this the right move for Democrats?
No, it's not. It backfired when the Republicans did it to Clinton. Look, if the Republicans were in power in the House today and Hillary Clinton were the president, I have no doubt they'd be doing the same thing. This is the way it's come down, and it's not right. It's not right when the Democrats do it. It's not right when the Republicans do it. Investigations by Congress are supposed to be looking toward legislation. They're not supposed to be open-ended inquiries into wrongdoing on the part of the other party. That's not the legitimate function of checks and balances by Congress.
I agree,
and
but you know, when the
both sides would stop doing that.
When the Republicans did have the gavel, they investigated events where people actually died. You know, the VA scandal, Benghazi, Fast and Furious, those to me seemed like legitimate concerns. There's some issue regarding Adam Schiff. So little Adam Schiff, I guess, might be in trouble because Michael Cohen, under oath, admitted that he was colluding or, you know, conversating with Schiff before his sworn testimony. Does he face any issue there?
Well, only issues within Congress itself. Congress is the exclusive judge of the behavior of its own members. Members cannot be prosecuted or sued for what they do pursuant to their job. They're not above the law. That is the law. But Congress could look into it. Democratic Congress is probably not going to look into it. Look, the American public does not trust Congress to do investigations.
You can say
That's
that
why
again.
From day one, I called for an independent, nonpartisan, objective commission like the 9/11 Commission to look into the attempt by Russia to influence elections in general. The American public would have trust in a credible investigation like that. They're not going to have trust in congressional investigations, whether conducted by a Republican majority or a Democratic majority. That's the reality, because everything is partisan and everything is political when Congress investigates.
All right. No one trusts Congress. I think everybody agrees on that. Professor Dershowitz, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Coming up, it's been over 2 years, and Hillary Clinton still can't accept that she's not sitting in the Oval Office right now. And she still can't accept the fact that other Democrats are losing. Well, we're going to be talking about some of her embarrassing comments next. Plus, high school students being rebuked for wearing MAGA gear to school. Why? Is it making the school unsafe? That debate up next.
As 4 Hillary Clinton t-shirts, 1 Obama shirt, a Bernie Sanders hat, and about 7 LGBTQ rainbow flag hats on campus today.
That was high school student Maddie Muller on this show with Laura just last week, who says she was banned from wearing her MAGA hat to school. And now we're hearing more stories like this. In Arizona, for example, a group of students say they were reprimanded for wearing MAGA hats, shirts, and carrying a Trump banner for the school's Party in the USA Day.
So you're going to tell me that you're going to ask my daughter to leave school because she was wearing a Make America Great Again sweatshirt?
Nope, that's not what happened.
That is what happened. Then why is she being asked to leave? She's not the one that had the Trump flag, and even if she did, why can't she have a flag on America Day for school that says Make America Great Again?
Because to carry a flag around is not good use of the flag. It's disrespectful.
Joining me now is Monica Crowley, senior opinion columnist for the Washington Times, and Rochelle Ritchie, former congressional press secretary for House Democrats. Disrespecting the flag. It wasn't the American flag, and that's okay on Spirit Day. It was like a Trump 2020 flag. Does that cause problems, a Trump flag for people?
You know what? I am not a MAGA supporter. You know,
you're not?
No, I'm not.
But you were the spokesman for the House Democrats.
Surprise, surprise. But these kids should be allowed to wear whatever they want to wear. If they want to wear a Make America Great Again hat, then go ahead.
What about a Fox
Arizona,
News t-shirt?
If they want to wear a Fox, I'm on Fox News, and I get in trouble for that, even though I'm here as a Democrat.
Okay.
But you know, these kids in Arizona should have the right to wear whatever they choose to wear politically. And I don't think that if they were causing any sort of disruption in the classroom or causing any sort of fights or protests in the hallways, that they should be reprimanded. And Arizona has a problem with this because there was also in 2016 a young woman that was suspended for wearing a Black Lives Matter shirt as well. So this seems to be a thing in Arizona.
Well, I
they
think
have
it's
an issue
probably
with
more
politics.
one-sided, and all it takes is for one little snowflake to say, ooh, he's wearing a MAGA hat, I'm offended, and then the administration says, no one can wear it.
Well, just like the Covington kids, I hope these kids all get a great lawyer who will work for them pro bono because our First Amendment rights are really being infringed.
Sue them and all get A's.
Look, all of the discrimination seems to go one way, right? It's against the kids who support Donald Trump, who come in the MAGA hats or the MAGA buttons or whatever it might be. And as the first student pointed out, Jesse, the kids who come wearing Hillary Clinton gear, Bernie Sanders gear, no problem whatsoever.
Yeah, Richie, why do we never hear stories back in the Obama years?
I like that you call me Richie.
Yeah, we're close. We never heard stories of students or anybody wearing Obama gear, Hope and Change T-shirts, getting assaulted, getting harassed,
well, I think
getting suspended.
I think
why not?
I think you have to look at the political.
If the right is so intolerant.
I think that we have to look at the political climate that we're in right now. And it is a lot of tension. And I think we're going to run into this problem as we head more and more into 2020. But even if the kids that wore Obama gear or wore MAGA gear now, I just don't think that either side should be reprimanded for that. I think that this is a freedom of expression. The problem we have in this country right now is that freedom of speech only counts when people like what you have to say.
Right. Well, as long as they're tucking their shirts in and they look neat.
Listen, the MAGA hat is an inanimate object, right? But what the left is trying to say is it's a symbol of hate. And actually what the MAGA hat does is expose hate. Because if you try to walk around in a school in New York City, in any of these left-wing bastions, you're going to feel the hate. Some people are actually getting targeted with violent activity because of it. And those
when it was raining the other day, I had my Fox umbrella in the subway. I put it down, turned it the other way. I didn't want anybody to see it.
And you should not have to do that. This
and
I was proud of your beliefs
and I am, but sometimes Manhattan a little gnarly at night in the subway.
But
I smirk too. I smirk, and that's even worse.
That's what the left does. Excuse me. It's all about intimidation. You know, they talk a good game about tolerance. They're the most intolerant faction on the face of the earth.
All right, now hold on. Let me ask you guys about losers. Okay, Hillary Clinton just can't get over the fact that she lost the presidency to Trump. Here she is this weekend talking about that. Another political loser, Stacey Abrams.
We know, don't we, that candidates, both black and white, lost their races because they have been deprived of the votes they otherwise would have gotten. The clearest example is from next door in Georgia. Stacey Abrams should be governor, leading that state right now.
Don't you think she should just accept the results of the election?
You know, I'm not one to cry over spilled milk, but I don't think that we can ignore the fact that voter suppression obviously is an issue, right? And I think that we have to acknowledge the fact that Brian Kemp was the Secretary of State, so he was sort of the overseer of the vote. But I don't think that we should be looking at this as a loss for Stacey Abrams. This really was a win for the Democrats in Georgia, because look at how much of a vote they did get. They got 48% of the vote. So that shows you that the tide is turning in Georgia, and we need to stop looking at this as something that we lost and start looking at the wins and continue to fight for voting rights.
Well, I don't know how much voter suppression there is, actually. The Democrats won 40 seats in the House the last midterms. I do want to get to this news sound by Hillary. This is breaking news right here. Listen to Mrs. Clinton.
I'm not running, but I'm going to keep working and speaking and standing up for what I believe. I want to be sure that people understand I'm going to keep speaking out. I'm not going anywhere.
First time on tape, Ms. Clinton said she will not run for president in 2020.
Do you believe her? She's been on the national scene for
I believe her.
That's the one thing I do believe out of her mouth.
I'm not sure, but I guess we have this to look forward to, that Mrs. Clinton is going to chime in whenever she thinks it's appropriate. Look, it's easy for us to mock her denial about 2016. The fact she lost to, of all people, Donald Trump makes her absolutely insane. But this is a woman whose whole identity was achieving the presidency. She married a man, she hitched her wagon to Bill Clinton, she put up with his serial humiliations for decades, all in the name of getting the ultimate prize. And so the fact she lost not once but twice, first to Obama and then to Trump, it's making her question her very identity, because her whole identity was wrapped up in sacrificing so much of her self-worth and self-esteem to get that job, and without it, who is she?
Well, no wonder
glad
she
she's not
fainted.
running.
She was married to Bill. I mean, I'd faint too.
I'm just glad she's not running.
One more topic I want to get to, you guys. 2020 hopeful Bernie Sanders on the Breakfast Club today, stumbling a little bit when asked about what he's done specifically to help the black community.
I think if you look at my record in terms of civil rights and other areas, you will find that it is consistently a very, very strong record.
Any legislation we can point to?
Well, legislation that benefits African Americans, yeah, we pass, but not specifically. You know, we passed legislation that benefits working people.
Crickets.
Crickets. Well, if he is the Democratic nominee running against Donald Trump, all Trump has to say is, I delivered the lowest African-American unemployment rate in history.
Well, really quickly, I think that he actually said a lot more in that interview than just that. He did talk about the disparities for African-Americans in this country.
We'll be right back.